Well, good evening, everyone. I'm Russ Filbeck here in San Diego, and I'm a member of the San Diego Fine Woodworkers Association, and I've been a member since 1984. And I would kind of like this to be a little bit about the history of the association, because the association is really important to all of San Diego. From starting back in 1980. That's when it was founded. Now, I didn't join until 1984, but Lynn Rabarchek and several fellows wanted to have a venue to show their work, and they went to the San Diego County Fair to see if they could show their work, and the fair told them, not unless you are an organization. And so they set about forming this association, and they set up a table up at the old Cutting Edge up off of Miramar Road, a fabulous woodworking tool store owned by Brian Murphy. And Brian is the one that hosts a furniture show every year in January for us craftsmen up in Escondido. So he's still very much involved in what we all do in woodworking. And but it was in '84 that I stopped through the booth at the fair and picked up the brochure, sent in my application, and joined. And I think my first general meeting was in September, and it was the most amazing moment, probably one of the most amazing moments in my life, because the guest speaker was George Frank. George Frank was this world-renowned wood finisher. He was from Hungary, immigrated into Paris, and I don't know, somewhere in the 40s, 50s time frame. And so by the time I got to meet him in '84, he was on his way back from China. When China first opened up, he was one of the first people to go to China, and he was there to look at their furniture and look at the Chinese lacquers and the finishing. And when he came back and talked that night at our general meeting about being able to go into these ancient castles where the basements had been flooded for a long time, maybe hundreds of years, but when they pumped them out, and the furniture they found there was the wood was all gone. The only thing left was this opaque or translucent shell, which was that Chinese lacquer. And the Japanese use it, and it's called urushi. But in China, it probably has a similar thing. It's from the sumac tree, the resin from the sumac that they make that, and it's quite toxic. So you have to get used to it and be very careful with it and how you use it. But the durability of that material is amazing. And so he came back and was telling us all about his adventures through China, and I just couldn't believe I had fallen into this group of people that had so much experience, knowledge, and were willing to share it. Pat Edwards, Del Cover, and many, many others, and their excitement about what their careers were doing, what they were doing, and things they were making. Pat Edwards was talking about all of this marquetry that he was doing, and then he was willing to share that with all of us in the association. And so I was just so excited. And so that the following meeting was October, and I volunteered to be one of the board members. and I think it was publicity. Nobody had volunteered for that position. So I said, I'll do it, and didn't know what to do, but everybody else said, oh, we'll help you. And so I did that for a year, helping get information out to magazines and stuff, publicizing our association and getting articles done. And the next year I volunteered to be resources chairman, where I went around to the local merchants and got them to give discounts to our members, and created this resources chairman position, and that goes on to today in the association. We have so many wonderful vendors, local merchants that give our members discounts. So this is just continuing on. We're now in our 40th year. So how amazing is it? I mean, it's still exciting. And this new venture that Mike has created here with this webinar, Zoom, YouTube presentations about our association and the talents and skills of our members. I mean, that type of energy and excitement, it's still so exciting to me, and just continues to make me happy that I've been a part of it for 36 years. And so the next July was on July of '85, or May, I guess, was my first Design in Wood show. And that's when I knew about it before I joined. So I decided that I would make a piece of furniture every year to support that Design in Wood show, because that's what the association was founded on, that principle. And so for the next 20 years, I had 1, 2, and sometimes 3 pieces of furniture in that show every year, just because I was so excited about what the association was doing. So, and finally in about 2008, I kind of backed off from that and didn't show anymore for a few years, but believe me, I had a pack of ribbons to show for all the chairs and different things that I had made, and I'm really proud of that. But and so I kind of backed off and let a few others win some ribbons too, because I have to tell you, I won a lot of blue ribbons, and I'm proud of that. Proud of the chairs I've made, and that comes a little bit later, because I hadn't got into this chair making quite yet. That comes a little later, in about '95. But then it was another year later, and Chuck Meacham was president, and he must have realized how excited I was to be a part of this organization, and he asked me if I would consider running for president, and I told him, I said, I don't have that much experience, Chuck. And he said, that's all right, I'll be here to help you. And sure enough, he did. And so I was president for 2 years, and I think '87, '88, somewhere right in there. And then I wound up getting a job at Palomar College teaching woodworking. And of course, between I didn't retire from the Navy until 1985. Between '85 and '89, I had my furniture restoration shop out near Miramar, and my Would It Be Beautiful was the name of my business. And so then I get this job at Palomar College, and as an adjunct instructor, and so I was teaching half-time and running my business half-time. So I did that for a few more years until I was hired full-time at Palomar College, and then I finally retired from there in 2010 after 15 years. During the time that I was president, a couple of things happened that I was really I look back on and really appreciate how things came together. It was, I think, fall of '87 or '88 that I wanted to get Tay Frid from the Rhode Island Institute of Design to come out here and give us a weekend workshop. And Tay Frid had written 3 wonderful books, and so he agreed to come, and we didn't have a place in which to have a workshop for the members, so I got San Diego State. I was going to San Diego State at the time as a student, and I got the furniture design program there to allow us to use their furniture lab, and Tay Frid came, and all the members came, and I don't know, we may have had a $10 per person charge or something like that. It was exceptionally reasonable, and we had such a great time, and that was the beginning of the fall seminar series that we have had ever since. And of course we've had people like Mike Dunbar, Brian Boggs, Frank Klaus, and so many others who have come here with their tremendous skills and just shared them with us. And the beauty of it was, with so many members, we were able to have these really reasonable prices, $50, $60 to spend 3 days with these magnificent craftsmen and learn a lot from them. And they were free and sharing of their skills and talents, and so that was one of the things that I'm really proud of. And then while I was president, Carol and I, my wife, we were walking through the student showcase at the San Diego County Fair, where the high school and college students were showing their work. And she said to me, she said, "Now there are your future members." She said, "You should figure out how to reach out to them and let them know you exist." And I thought about it, and I said, what do you think I can do? And I said, what do you think of a scholarship? And she said, "That'll be fine, just as long as you create an avenue for them to know that and hear about you." And so that was the first year that we created the scholarship program. And I went around and kind of browbeat all of the merchants and got $50, $60, $75 a piece from them. And we came up with a $400 scholarship the first year, and it went to a Palomar College student who was really doing fabulous stuff in wood turning while he was at Palomar. And so this would have been in probably the fall of '88, maybe, somewhere along in there. And so the scholarship program, the fall seminar, all that kind of started along about that time. And then Pat Edwards was the superintendent of the Design and Wood Show. And he had this idea to create a 19th century cabinet shop in the Design and Wood Show. And so he brought all of this stuff from his shop and set up this just wonderful shop with all these old hand tools that you rarely ever get to see. And he wanted people to come in and use them a little bit. And I think that was maybe the first year. And the second year, he decided he wanted to do something a little more. And he came up with this thing where we would make these children's chairs, and we would use those tools, and then the chairs would get donated to local children's programs, Rady's Children's Hospital, and there's a whole variety of places like that around San Diego County. Well, we planned on 48 chairs, 4 dozen. And so as it turned out, Pat had all these parts that were partially prepared, and we got the show started, and at the end of the first week, not a single chair was ready, was coming together. And we realized they weren't going to get done in time. So we literally took all those parts up to my shop and drilled the dowel holes and got the parts prepared so that we could then shape the parts, glue them together, and make 48 chairs in 3 weeks' time. And so we did it. And so every year since then, the parts have been partially prepared so that we can get 4 dozen chairs done every year. So another cool thing that got started back in the late 80s. The energy at that time in the association for me was just over the top. And what's exciting is that the same thing is happening right now. About what, 32 years later? Gary and Travis, they've got this new member shop thing going that's been going on for about 2.5 to 3 years now. And the members have this place to go and work and make toys and make things together. And they're coming up with this latest technology and what's this printing thing that where you injection, well, it's not injection molding, not injection printing, but
laser CNC.
Laser work, laser cutting, and so all this latest technology is now being done in that member shop. And so there's a whole new level of energy, of new ideas. And so it just amazes me how it just keeps going and keeps getting better as new things happen. And but yet we do keep our old traditions going, because I'll never forget on our 25th anniversary, we brought Roy Underhill here for a Wednesday night guest speaker at our general meeting. And Roy Underhill is such a magnificent entertainer. It just, he just blew the roof off of the Shriners building where we were at that night. It was so much fun with him. And so we've just continued to have such amazing things going on. So I spent 20-some years at Palomar College, and starting in the fall of '89, or maybe it was the fall of 1990, I started a Monday, Wednesday night class routine at the college. And so for the next 15 years, I rarely attended a general meeting with the association because I had classes, and July was kind of my only time. But after I retired from the college, I've continued to be active with the association and still being if nothing more, a big cheering fan for everything that everybody's doing. So pretty awesome time. So, you know, for me to thank Gary and Travis and Mike, Mike is running this operation, and all of these things are going on and continuing because of their efforts, and you can't thank those volunteers enough that make these kinds of things happen. So we'll shift gears here a little bit, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what I do in my shop here, teaching how to make spoke shaves, how to make chairs, how to make shaker boxes, just a wide variety of things, but those are my passions and have been for many years. And so we'll talk to you more about that in just a minute.